disrupted.
America that I fought.
Weird thing to happen.
Hello, one and all. Welcome to this edition of Kitz Corner. Hoping a fantastic day so far. Bill Maher. He's at it again, folks. He's proving again how much of an out-of-touch loser he's becoming. Or really just is. I mean, it's not becoming. He's been that way for a while, but this is just more and more predominant. And more predominant on his podcast, Club Random, which, again, it's such a weird title to call it Club Random when we know from Bill Maher, you're going to see the obvious of him. You're going to see the obvious prick of the establishment that he truly, really is. So really, it's not random. It's obvious. The most random part about it was when Roseanne Barr had to educate him on who, Klaus Schwab and the WEF are. He's supposed to be a political insider. He's supposed to have this comedic political show on HBO, and he doesn't know about this global elite cult that travels year to year, cultivizing governments and deciding the fate of humanity. You don't know who any of those people are, Bill? But you call out Tucker Carlson for being, this awful Putin buddy, significant other of the Russian mafia for doing journalistic work, even though you're not a journalist whatsoever. But here's Bill Maher interviewing, I think that's, I'm blanking on the name already, but Jillian Michaels from The Biggest Loser. And she's like this fitness guru, advocate for health or whatnot. And Bill Maher brings up the economy because Jillian Michaels went into conversation about pandemic and COVID, and obviously Bill Maher, he is in touch with the fact that, yes, there are a lot of things that the COVID pandemic lied to us about, even though it was a big giant lie from the start. But Bill Maher was kind of one of those people that somewhat questioned it, but here he goes. Going from that stance to then saying, oh, well, even with the pandemic, I still have to be the establishment prick that I am. Listen to this.
But isn't it amazing to you? Like it was in the paper today about this country came out of the pandemic way better. We won the pandemic economically. I mean,
I don't know what's a funnier punchline. We won out of the pandemic, or I saw in the Oh, God. Oh, my God. This is your out-of-touch grandfather or creep uncle that you meet once a year. And he tells you, when I picked up the New York Times flying in from the airports, I read this article, or maybe it was Marmaduke in the comic section that told me, we won the pandemic, folks. We won. All hail us. We are the champions. Should be playing right now. We won the pandemic. Oh my God. That might be the most hilarious thing I've heard on this podcast. I gotta hear this again.
but isn't it amazing to you? Like it was in the paper today about this country came out of the pandemic way better. We won the pandemic economically. I mean, America.
My God. Why? It's not like you're Patrick Mahomes asking about the economic system. You're Bill Maher. This is not a football match. We won. We won against the pandemic. We triumph over it. We had a hard halftime performance, and we may have had some downs and some flags play here and there, but we came up the triumphs. All because he read a paper. Ah! Oh my God. Well, while Bill Maher has his head fully up his own asshole, Jillian Michaels is going to bring him back to earth and smack some reality into him to realize that, no, we didn't win out of the pandemic. In fact, we're still enduring a huge loss of what happened during the pandemic and how much of a problematic crisis it turned into.
God, I don't feel that way. Explain it to me. I feel like inflation's insane.
Everything. Inflation is not insane.
Bill, go buy a car.
There's numbers. I understand things,
a house
but it has
tripled.
I understand. No, it's not. But I understand. Like, could you be out of touch with any reality? Like, when was the last time Bill Maher stepped foot in a store and bought food for himself? I'm pretty sure, like, he has. I'm not. You know, I'm not trying to make up stories about him or anything, but I'm pretty sure how successful, how much of a millionaire he is. I'm pretty sure he has like servants running around. I bet he has his food delivered to him. I'm sure he's got like a personal chef. I don't know. I don't know that much about Bill Maher, but it seems like when you're that out of touch and you can't even find out what people's living standards are. Like, at least Jillian Michaels, yeah, she's successful, but she's probably talked to people. She probably knows how the cost of groceries are affecting people because she actually interacts with the daily public. Bill Maher does a show, hangs out with celebrities, and then goes home. Does he tour around Los Angeles and talk to the people in tent cities? No, he probably doesn't even know about tent cities.
Here.
Look, I get that people
buy some fucking eggs. Explain it to me. I'm not an economist,
there's feelings, and then there's the numbers.
Okay, what are the numbers?
The numbers have come down a lot in the last 6 months.
Okay.
What numbers?
Of course, it was inevitable when we gave out $6 trillion so that everybody could hide under the bed from the forever flu. That was never going to end well.
It was taken by the richest people ever and didn't get where it needed to go.
A lot of it was stolen.
By the way, the $6 trillion went to Wall Street, by the way. The $6 trillion, the first handout that they were trying to save the economy when they told people to shut everything down and we were going to protect you. Remember the government saying that? Shut all your small businesses down. Don't, get out. Don't leave your house. We will protect you. We will financially secure you. That first bailout went towards Wall Street. Wall Street that didn't lose their jobs. Wall Street that was not told to hunker down. Wall Street that was not affected by the pandemic. In fact, they grew through the pandemic. You know who was affected? The sucker that got $1,200. One $1,200 check. Oh, here's a rent check for 1 month. The rest of it is on your own. Screw you. Go pound sand. Bill Maher has no goddamn clue about anything he's mentioning here. Well, the numbers say that again, he doesn't say what numbers. What numbers have done better? Again, he has no idea, no concept of what he's saying here. He's just making up gibberish to back the claim that, the righteous Bill Maher, because he read the paper this morning, can tell you that we won against the pandemic. And I know this better than you, Jillian Michaels, because I read numbers. I don't know what those numbers are. I'm not going to tell you what those numbers are, but I know better than you that I feel that the pandemic was a success. And as she points perfectly, go buy some effing eggs. Go pay groceries. Go see what rent is like. Just go outside your studio and talk to the homeless guy that's sleeping in your parking lot, Bill. Jeez, come on. Is it that hard? Is it that difficult to get in touch with reality? Is it that goddamn difficult for a success like you, Bill, to have the nerve, to have the initiative to actually talk. Do you even talk to your studio audience? Do you talk to the people that go to your shows? I'm sure the people that go can afford to go to your shows don't care about the homeless population either. But I'm just saying, do you interact with anybody outside your bubble? Or maybe because of the pandemic you were told not to? I don't know. But wow. That was just insane. But let's see how much of a success we came out of the pandemic. Because I got some articles. This is from, closer to home to me, but you could take this as America too. From CTV News, Ontario-wide lockdown, absolutely devastating for many small businesses. Because we're winners! Winner, winner, chicken dinner! I saw it in a paper! Yeah! As Bill Maher would say. Meanwhile, every mom and pop business was forcibly shut down and jeopardized during the pandemic. And if we really cared about security and safety, we didn't do jack squat for Amazon or Walmart or any other of the big chain stores that were still open. They were monitoring, they were operating, they were still highly successful during the pandemic. But every mom and pop diner, small shop, your beauty salon, barber, any of those locations that you know they were handling the pandemic to a degree as they could handle. They were subjugated. They're the ones that had to close down. They're the ones impacted by this. But Bill Maher would tell you that's all fables and that's just, random feelings. This is the truth. This is the numbers. We came up on top. How about this? From the CBC, 1 in 6 small businesses could be forced to close, the Federation says. Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses says 74,000 businesses in Ontario alone are at risk from 2021. And if you look at Toronto today, you look at the biggest city in Ontario where all the small stores that you used to walk down, different streets into Toronto, it's not the same anymore. It literally looks like a war zone. You look at the streets of Ontario cities today, how decrepit it's become because of small businesses, closing during the pandemic and then giving the boot and torched around. It's just insane. But Bill Maher, because he's such an idiot up his own asshole, will tell you that things are great. Things are successful. Oh, don't worry about, paying for eggs because the numbers said in the paper that they were good. Again, what paper? What numbers? You're not telling me jack squat. But he lives successfully, so who cares about him? Global news. Pandemic effort on homelessness could take years to play out. Experts call for action. So, not just small businesses that were forced to close down, economic stances that impacted a lot of Canadians and Americans, but the homelessness rate skyrocketed. People were forced out of their homes, obviously, because if you don't have a sustainable income to pay for your necessities, you're out in your butt. You're on your own. You're screwed. You have to seek survival and shelter somewhere. So yes, a lot more tent cities popped up during the pandemic. Why? Because you told people to hunker down, not get an income, and we may provide some assistance to you. Maybe. Questionable. It's just an absolute disgrace. Here's even this. This is from National Post. Pandemic aggravates opioid crisis as overdoses rise and services fall out of reach. The figures are up to 35 to 40% year over year since the onset of the pandemic. Does that sound like a success story to you? Does that seem like a real comeback, story that you'd probably hear in a Lifetime movie? Does that really sound like a successful plan? That now that small businesses have collapsed, the economic stance is in dire straits. People can't afford necessities to keep them alive. And because so, they're out in the streets, homeless, begging to the point that, they're giving up on life. And because so, that the Canadian government, instead of actually feeding the services to help these people, to actually have a strong, defendable, working class people, they're now lining them up for suicide. Government-assisted suicide. Does that seem like a winnable story, Bill? Does that seem like the paper was definitely spot on about this pandemic? Or is it just a cover-up because Wall Street was paid out during this pandemic to light these, colorful stories to give you light and hope and tell you everything's great while everyday people are suffering? Everyday people, the people that work 9 to 5, significant amount of jobs are getting screwed 9 ways to Sunday. Just an absolute disregard and disgrace. Why that like? And Bill Maher. Bill Maher is so full up his own asshole. Can't even see it. But we'll slam down Jillian Michaels and other guests because, oh, he read the paper. Oh, he's on top of things. I have an HBO show. Do you? I can't wait for him to say that moment. Like he sounds like a 10-year-old child. Like, oh, I have a successful TV show. I'm uppity up on these topics. Do you? Well, according to your stance, Bill, I can't be up and up on these things because you told us that reading is for dummies. Do not read. Do not look into things because if you look into things, that's wrong. Although I think he was one of the only few celebrities that was actually okay with other people doing their own research. I still can't believe. I shake my head every day to the point that our society got to a point where doing your own research, like doing the stuff that I'm doing right now, was considered such a heinous act that you were shammed upon by the rest of humanity. Like family members, friends, people that you know, colleagues, and people that you met on the streets, they would belittle you just on the fact that you're looking up things and you're inquiring about, medical vaccine. Like it got to a point where we were shaming people for educating themselves. Like education was being shammed while stupidity rose on. Like it goes to show you how the world is just collapsing within itself. But Bill Maher, because he read a paper, God forbid, they still print it, I guess, for customers like Bill Maher. Will tell you that everything's great, everything's fantastic, fan and dandy like sour candy. All the rest of us are suffering.